Welcome to our second Breachside chat here. The Malifaux role-playing game Through the Breach. Kind of talk to the dev, ask your questions, get everything kind of handled. Uh, this week we're going to be using the same format as last week. I'm going to go through the list over here that I have of all the questions that people have asked. But unlike last week, I'm going to pop out my social stream, and I am going to minimize this little guy. I'm doing that because last week some of the trolls, they got me. I'll blame it on the fact that I was tired and that they were extremely clever. And you're all going to go along with that excuse. That's the rule I just made up. But they got me, so this time around I'm just going to kind of minimize the chat, so I won't be able to see any of your questions until we get to that point. But then I'll bring it up, and we'll have lots of questions to ask and from you guys, and then obviously the ones that were posted in the comments section. I feel like there was something else I was supposed to mention right now, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, all right. Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through all these questions, just in the order in which I received them, and then I'll open up to the peanut gallery here on the social stream. And afterwards, this will be saved to Ustream, and as soon as we can, we'll put it on YouTube for all you guys to be able to watch at your leisure. Last week, I mispronounced a few names. That's never something I want to do, and I do apologize to those people whose name I mispronounced. However, this time around, to make sure it's completely equitable, I will be purposely mispronouncing everyone's names. So that'll be a little bit of fun for me. Let's just dig right in and get to the questions then. Our first question comes from Dauntless Gamis. He asks, "Thanks for the vidcast, really enjoyed it, and thanks for answering my question. My pleasure. Got a couple more for you. How will items be distributed on character creation? Is it a buy system, or do we get to set items depending on our pursuit? With the unique level system in place, is there any sort of cap? And can you go into a bit more detail about how improvement systems work regarding skills?" I can do all of that. First, during character creation, characters will have a set amount of money to spend. As well, based on their pursuit, they're going to get one item for free. A gunfighter, for instance, is going to start with a gun of some sort, probably a little better than what most people are able to afford, unless they really dedicate a lot of cash to it. A dabbler will start with a magical tome, so he has access to some magic right away, but then he'll also have cash to spend. And then there's still decisions there, right? Every gunfighter doesn't start with the same gun. It'll simply say, choose a pistol of up to this value. Choose one tome from this list of tomes, that sort of thing. So there will be some decisions there, and characters at this moment will be able to choose quite a bit of their equipment, but then they'll also make sure that they have those things required to do the job to which they're kind of aimed at. With the unique level system in place, is there any sort of cap? There's a soft cap. The soft cap is pretty simple. Once all of the characters have really finished their fates. Every character has 5 steps in their fate, and once all the characters in the campaign have finished that, that's pretty much the end of your campaign. It's big, it's epic, maybe there's a couple game sessions that happen after that, but it's designed, the system is designed to have a closed campaign instead of an open campaign. I expect a typical gaming group will look at playing anywhere between 20 to 30 game sessions or little storylines before they've really rolled it up. Now that doesn't sound like many for a lot of the players who have been playing the same D&D game for the last 5 years, that sort of thing. And there's certainly options for playing longer or a more open-ended campaign. But I, for my part, feel that it's best, especially with the themes of Malifaux and the world of Malifaux, to maybe kind of keep things on a contained story where the Fate Master really has a goal in mind and the players can really affect that story quite a bit. And there's a lot of advice for that in the Fate Master's book. Sure, you can do more open campaigns where you just play forever, but in those situations, there really is no cap. And it might become rather unwieldy as the characters get extremely powerful. I think maybe there's probably a limit of 100 game sessions before characters get a little problematic to play. Second, can you go into a bit more detail about how the improvement systems works regarding skills? Right now, they're pretty straightforward. There are a bunch of skills. Skills are the thing that are the most populous in the game. There's huge number of skills. I think the skills chapter right now is 20-something pages and is expanding every day. And those skills are pretty straightforward. They do what they do. And every game session, you will basically pick 3 of those that you feel your character really learned a lot on. You'll say, okay, my character failed a bunch of shots this game, where normally he's a very good gunfighter, so he's maybe learned from those mistakes. He's also spent a lot of time in the library looking up and researching more stuff with the arcane, and he also spent a lot of his time conning his way into this secret society. So you'll pick 3 different skills you feel he learned something on, and then the Fate Master goes, I think this is the one of those 3 that you learned the most, and that's the skill that will go up a point. There are other ways to improve skills. Fate Masters might say, well, I'm going to pick 2 because you did really good this game session, and that sort of thing. But for the most part, you just basically go up a skill every game session, and you have a lot of control over how that happens. That might change during playtesting. That's one of those rules that is in the very early concept stages. I might switch it to where the Fate Master picks 3 and the players pick 1, or maybe we'll move to a much more regimented system. But for now, that's how it's working. But that's one of those things that's subject to change. Dennis M. Graziano, I may have accidentally pronounced that correctly. Let me try that again. Denise M. Graziano says, with the way you talk about experience being sort of tied into the story and the things you do during the game, how difficult will it be to add a new player to an already established group? If you have a group that has been playing for a few months and they're all level 6, he says in quotes, can you start a new player so that they would be at a similar power level? That's actually going to be pretty straightforward to do. You can easily tell how many skills players have gained, how many steps along different pursuits they've gone, and you should be able to pretty easily determine how powerful a character is and bring another character in at that power level. Although, because the game system is so fluid, I don't foresee a big problem in actually bringing in a low-level, quote-unquote, low-level character in with more high-level characters. That can present a very nice challenge to an experienced player. Maybe he's playing the kid who's really a good gunfighter, but he's naive in a lot of other ways. So while the rest of the group might be academics and mercenaries, now they're stuck with this little young thug, this little hoodlum who fancies himself the quick draw. So maybe he just doesn't handle the problems that they typically see in their game session the same way they do, or even very well. But that doesn't mean he's not competent in a fight or able to hold his own. So there's a lot of different ways to handle that, and that's one of those things that we'll be putting a lot of advice into in the Fate Masters Almanac. That's really what that book is for, is to help Fate Masters deal with all those problems and just run a really smooth game. So yeah, you should be able to bring a character into a mid-level game or a high-level game even, either at that level or lower, depending on how the story fits your game. Remember, for Through the Breach, the story should really guide everything when it comes to that sort of thing. Ori Wallace asks, have you mentioned that you will be looking for community feedback and support into the role-playing development when the forum goes up? Will there be contests, i.e. writings and drawings, such as Iron Pen, where the person in the community might see a short story of theirs worked into one of the books or future books? He's got a couple questions, and they're pretty detailed, so I'm going to just start with one instead of reading them all. That's going to be a lot of fun when the forums go up. We are trying something that no other game company has really tried on this level, and it's going to be a phenomenal amount of work for me. I honestly don't think contests are the right way to handle that sort of situation. I would much rather be in touch with you guys, chatting with you guys on a daily basis. I might just spend a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour a day just in the chat or in the forums, responding to what people said, reading what people said, posting my own stuff. And my goal is to allow you guys to really influence this stuff. If you have a really great short story that you want used, it might just find its way into the book. There wouldn't be a contest for it. I would be like, yeah, that's a really good example. Or a player might actually come up with a mechanic I haven't thought of. I'm a genius, sure, but I can't think of everything. So I'm getting dirty looks from the people in the office. I can't come up with everything, and there are players who are going to come up with some really brilliant stuff as the game develops, as they see how the mechanics function. And if someone comes up with a really cool idea, I'm not afraid to put it in the book. Now, this is something where players and fans who are part of the beta forums, the special forums, need to understand that anything that they want to add to the book is something that they have a chance to do, but it's not something where I'll be paying people for, be like, hey, can you write this? Here's, I have a budget for this writing. It doesn't mean I won't discover new talent this way and hire them in the future, but for the beta forums, I want people to be very clear that if they don't want me using their stuff, don't post it on the beta forums. I will give credit where credit's due. I'm not going to just steal your stuff, but that isn't, that is the purpose of it, is to make this game better. And the assumption is anyone who's in there has a chance to get their stuff in the book, has a chance to really influence the way the game is being designed. I can't promise anything, and I'm certainly, it gets convoluted there, but yeah, it's not a place where I'm going to be paying writers to do stuff, but it is a place where you, as fans, will have an unprecedented ability to affect the design and the direction of the role-playing game. It's pretty exciting. It's a grand experiment that no one's really ever done before. If some of us were crazy about Malifaux before the official release on the idea of an RPG and started working on the homebrew to play with different friends, would you want to see our take on the mechanics and such? While I'd find that sort of thing interesting, it's not something that would really help with the development of the book. The book's kind of core rules are on their way. So once you get a chance to kind of see what those rules look like, and the beta forms are kind of fleshing out, and you learn more and more about the actual details, I'm sure a lot of the experience you've had building that homebrew will certainly, you'll see where I can mine good ideas. And if you want to offer them up, I will certainly read them. However, a full homebrew manuscript, I just frankly won't have time to read through. So hopefully you'll be able to mine through your ideas, and if you have some of these ideas you think really works for the campaign, then for the role playing game, then I'm happy to see them. But emailing me in a full manuscript won't be helpful to either of us, frankly. I'm sorry if that's a bit blunt, but there's a lot of people with homebrew stuff with really good ideas. This isn't about me not wanting those ideas. It's that there'd be a deluge of them, and I wouldn't have time. There's only one of me. Suggestion for the example character creation in the future. I would like to. I'll read that in a second. It's a suggestion, and then there's another suggestion. So those aren't questions, but I will certainly read your suggestions once we're off the air. I'm going to highlight these and change them to a different color so that I remember to do so. They are now in red. Don't worry, I'll read your suggestions. Pride365 asks, with the disposition system and these custom minis, are we going to see tournament rules that are in line with what you see is what you get idea? Also, will there be a way for someone to play Karai, as in having our own inner spirit come out and wreak havoc? The role-playing game system will not be influencing the tournament system for the Malifaux Skirmish game. While I certainly see a lot of opportunity for people to play some really cool campaigns and do a lot of fun stuff with their gaming group, which is something we love and we really want to promote. We want to give people the tools to just go nuts with their friends and have a really good time. We are keeping the two separate. The role-playing game will not be influencing the balance of the miniatures game, nor will any of the rules that appear in the miniatures game be required or designed to function with the skirmish game. That being said, I'm sure some enterprising henchmen out there or some guys at your local store may want to run events or even tournaments that do use those rules, but they're going to have to be concerned with the logistics of that. It is not something we plan at this time to support, mainly because we want to maintain the balance and mechanical purity of the skirmish game. It is a player versus player game. It's designed to play like that. A role-playing game is a much more cooperative group storytelling effort. They're very different beasts, and to try and make one meta system a slave to both masters would be frankly disastrous. Will there be a way for someone to play Karais and having their own inner spirit come out and wreak havoc? There's going to be a lot of options in the game. We'll be looking at a lot of different things, but that one in particular would certainly be something your Fate Master might have happen as part of your as your own personal omen. So that's something that's very thematic in the game world, and I would not be surprised to see that being part of how it plays out. Ross Tasker asks, how bad is the Black Joker in character creation? Well, character creation is one of those things where random character creation sounds much more swingy, I guess is the term I want to use, than a lot of people are used to. It's not as swingy. In our game, a black joker or a red joker during character creation are basically the same. You're going to come out with the same total no matter what. However, when you get the black joker, your character is much more focused. So he's spent a lot of time on one aspect, for instance, if you're worried about his attributes, right, than others, and maybe he's let one languish. So he might have 2+2, so he's pretty strong, he's pretty fast, but then he'll have a -3 he has to worry about. So there's maybe his toughness is -3, and he's like Doc Holliday, he has consumption. There's something about him that's far below the human average. So he'll also have things that are above the human average to compensate for that. While a character who gets the red joker, the quote-unquote best card, in this case would be someone who has zeros across the board and then a +1 in something. So while he's not he has no drawbacks, he really doesn't go full bore into a merit. The same situation applies to skills. Someone who's got a black joker in the skills section is going to have a bunch of 1s. He's less focused than someone who gets the red joker who might have a skill at like a 4 or a 5. He's a master of a craft. So it's the point totals will be the same. So it's not bad to get a black joker during character creation from a statistics standpoint. I don't want the game to be like, oh, I rolled a 3, crap. That's just not how it's going to work. However, it's pretty bad on your omen. Worse even than the red jokers. And the red jokers looks pretty bad. All of the omens look pretty bad when you think about it. So, no, it's all up for interpretation, but that one has a much bigger, more evil interpretation where you as a player might be like, oh crap. So it'll hopefully be exciting rather than mechanically a drawback. It's something it's bad in a story sense, and it's something that's coming, so your character will know there's bad things on the horizon, but he's not going to be suffering statistically. I believe that all player characters need to be created equal, and it's the gameplay that destroys someone. It's the Fate Master's fault when things become unbalanced. I need someone else to blame. Cian Kearney asks, can you gain access to totems, and do you have a choice of pre-made totems, or can you make one for yourself? That's not currently something I've got built into the core rulebook. It is certainly something that's very Malifaux and that I'm looking into. It's certainly something to go a little nuts with, and that's one of those things that I feel needs a very robust mechanical treatment. So when we introduce totems, or if we introduce totems, it'll be something that's very fleshed out, and I want players to really feel like it's a very important aspect to their character, although not a required one. So currently, no, I don't have that set into the rules, but I am aware of it, aware of it in the game, and it'll certainly be discussed at some point. Charles Bucker asks, from the description of the characters being the most important people at that given moment in time and facing their fate, it sounds like the game is more focused on short-term play. Are there plans for longer games and changing fates, or is it designed to go quicker than that? Then he's got another one. I'll get into that one in a second. It is designed from a initial design standpoint for it to have a set run, for you and the players to know this campaign will go 20 to 30, maybe 35 game sessions, and we're going to tell this one story. We're going to tell a set story about what the characters are doing and who they are as their own fates, and you as the Fate Master will weave those fates into a truly epic story, and we're going to give you a lot of advice for how to do that. That being said, there will be also ways to go with a more open-ended game, so it does play much longer. When you do that, you're going to want to hand out fewer experience, make sure that players don't advance too quickly, that sort of thing. So you certainly could do that sort of game, but it is designed to have an ending. There are some players who much prefer say the D&D route, where they're going to play this game for the next 5-6 years. But in my experience, those game sessions, those gaming groups, are actually pretty rare. New games come out all the time that players want to enjoy, and I want people to see Through the Breach as that game that they can go, oh, I'm gonna, my group would love to play this through. We know there's an ending. It'll take us about a year to play through, because there'll be absences or weeks we don't get to play. And at the end of it, we'll have told this really cool story. And if we want to do it more, we can. But we can also start a new one, or we can go play something else, or we can come back to it. I'm hoping that Through the Breach is one of those games that players really think of fondly and really enjoy their campaigns. But for me, in my experience, the best campaigns are the ones that have ended and have had really cool wrap ups that feel very fulfilling and feel like a really big story was told. So that's my hope for the game, and I'm trying to make that a reality. But I certainly understand that there are gaming groups out there who take different approaches to gaming. So I'm certainly aware of the tools you need to do something more open-ended, and I think our game will support that as well, even though it's not my core design philosophy on it. Also, it seems like the game is going for a really strong story game feel, which I love. But one of my favorite parts of Malifaux is how themey the characters' powers are, and that requires a certain amount of crunch. Like Colette feels like a stage musician, Zoraida feels like a manipulator, and all that. Will player characters in Through the Breach have the same sort of cool powers that reflect their concept? Absolutely. One of the things that I'm putting into the system is into the magic and the powers. Let's go over that real quick. Let's take a running start at this. In the Malifaux universe, magic is everywhere. There are seemingly mundane abilities that are fueled by magic. And so while they may not be a spell, which harnesses magic to create a supernatural effect, people are really supported by magic when the more powerful they get. It just kind of flows through them. They do some really cool stuff, even though it's not quote-unquote a spell. Quote-unquote a spell. I just realized my fingers were below the chat line. So I would like it if players were able to take abilities and supernatural stuff and really customize how they function. So we'll have a lot of stuff in there for the crunch, for how to weave some of your talents together. If a character has multiple talents, we'll have rules for weaving those together and making even cooler stuff. Now that may not be in the core rulebook. There's a lot to put in that core rulebook as they expand and get larger. As the Kickstarter moves forward, the books are getting bigger. And hopefully, if I can't get it in the core book, it'll be very shortly after, or in the Fate Masters book. We'll see where it ends up making sense to put it. But I'm aware of that theme and how the theme really works with the mechanics, and that's what we're trying to do with the Through the Breach as a whole. So I'm going to be giving players some very powerful tools for crafting their own themes and working the mechanics into them. Ivy, who I know I'm mispronouncing that one correctly, or incorrectly, Ivy asks, how gear-dependent will Fated be in Through the Breach? Will this be a game that downplays the importance of gear compared to the talent of the character using it? E.g., a sword is a sword. I feel like I've answered this one. I think I may have answered this one last week, but just in case I didn't, it's a middle ground. Yes, there are very powerful weapons, but yes, they're very powerful in certain people's hands. So there are certainly magic items that have cool random effects or powerful effects, that sort of thing. But I don't think any character is gear dependent. You won't be looking to upgrade your character by improving the pips on his sword, for instance. That does not mean you won't be customizing your weapon, and that you won't be able to define your character through their equipment. There's some very cool stuff. There's some very powerful stuff, but it's not designed to be required. This isn't a level-based system. It's not like D&D or Pathfinder, where there's a lot of mechanics that go into making sure that the group is balanced against the encounter. It's much more fluid. It's much more like a White Wolf game or Shadowrun. So expect that to be equipment to be very, very fun and very cool and make your character better and be really important to your character, but don't expect it to, what's the word I'm looking for, to be the central way in which your character improves, or even inherent to the way your character improves. That's all the character themselves. They should be free to use the same sword their entire career, upgrading that sword or not. Or maybe they're the kind of person who doesn't care and is constantly upgrading their weapon, so when they're gifted a new gun by the guild, that's a really important moment for them, and they're going to use that new weapon. Or maybe, you've got that guy who's been using the same hatchet since he was 9 years old, and he'll be damned if he's going to start using something else now. So that'll be up to you as a player, and there'll be a lot of different ways to advance that. Or, okay, that's a continuation, so yeah, all right. Aleister Bergen asks, is it correct to assume that players will always be fated characters? Is it possible for the players to play characters who are not fated? How integral is is the characters being fated to the game. Fluff-wise, I worry that it makes little sense for every player and every campaign I run is a fated and knows their own fate. The game is designed with the assumption that players are fated. They're very important at this moment in time. It is certainly possible to run characters who aren't fated. All you would need to do is you just literally skip one step in the character creation process. So if that is that a hang up for you, then you will have the tools to make that change in your own game. I think that's probably something we should touch on. I am approaching Through the Breach trying to design the game perfectly to do one type of game. There's a lot of games out there that try to build a system that works for every type of game. I felt that it's really important to make our mechanics work perfectly for one type of game. But I want to give you the tools because I trust the Fate Masters out there. You guys are gamers. You guys know how to do this. A new player might not be as good at it as other people, but for the most part, the diehard fans, the real experienced role players I know, they change every system they play. I do it. I pick up a system. I go, okay, this is the kind of campaign I want to run. This makes a lot of sense for my campaign, but I need to adjust some stuff to make it fit perfectly to the campaign I'm running. I'll give you a concrete example. I am currently running a Dresden Files game. I'm really enjoying it. I love the Dresden Files universe, so I'm running a small Dresden Files game for my friends. But unlike some games, we decided early on that this game was going to literally be a TV show, that we wanted it to feel like a TV show. All the characters would be played by actors we know. So we literally cast the characters with actors, and we had a great time with it. Or having a great time with it. But that did mean I needed to make some changes to the Dresden Files system, which is the Fudge system, I think is what it's called. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. I think it's the Fudge system. It's based on that system. And it's a really good system, but I needed to make some adaptations to make it fit the campaign I wanted to run. So if I were running I could run it straight out of the book and it would be fantastic, but we had this other idea and it worked for us. So I expect that Through the Breach will provide that set of tools for you. And if you decide to veer away from the core mechanical theme, because we're trying to hybrid them with Through the Breach, if you want to veer away from that in your campaign, you should have the tools to do that, and it shouldn't be very difficult. You're not going to have to rewrite a bunch of core mechanics. You should be able to just go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to shuffle this around and layer on this new thing that I like, and it should be pretty straightforward. I hope that answers your question. Bo Saxton asks, what made you go with asymmetrical randomness, i.e. Only the players flip their results determining the outcome, when the skirmish game uses symmetrical randomness? I suppose you could view it that since both players in the skirmish game are playing major characters and their minions, they warrant both flipping. But I'm a bit skeptical of static NPC/enemies in RPG. When you use the argument of the GM pausing to do math to inhibit the fluff of the scene, you must admit that they're still going to have to do some math, but the player is the one doing it. That's true. The player is the one doing it. The idea is that we're not breaking the Fate Master out of that role, which is the goal, and in our playtests has made a significant difference. I think you might be surprised. The reason that it's asymmetrical flipping has nothing to do with what kind of character is doing the flipping, and everything to do with the nature of the game inherently. A role-playing game is a communal storytelling aspect. It's not antagonistic. The storyteller is not playing against the players. He's telling a story and the players are influencing that story. It's like they were the main characters in a movie. The Fate Master is the director. He casts and plays the part of everybody that isn't the players' characters. The players are just there to be the main characters and to influence how the story goes. A great example is Firefly, right? In this case, we'd call Joss Whedon the Fate Master. Joss Whedon would be everyone the core crew interacts with. However, the core crew, which I think is 9 people, I might have that number wrong, that would be the gaming group, and they would be able to influence things. So when Malcolm Reynolds decides to shoot a bandito, or Jane, sets his gun into the spacesuit so he actually has oxygen to fire, that's the players taking action. The Fate Master said, well, you're moving towards this thing, and this is what's going to happen, and then they're taking actions to stop it. So the difference there is that's a communal storytelling. The skirmish game is designed for 2 players to be competing against each other. While it is very thematic and there's a lot of story involved in the skirmish game, it's just that it's a 2-player game in which 1 player has to win. or the players tie. There are no winners, losers, or ties in a role-playing game. And because of that, both players don't need to make flips in the role-playing game. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how the game plays and how that functions. And I think if you really, really dislike it, the disposition system will really help you out. Because with the disposition system, you'll be able to convert everything to the skirmish game. So if you really want the Fate Master flipping cards, you'll have the tools to do that. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how well that plays. And it sounds like something that's it's very new, it's very different. I know of one or two games who have tried it, but they've been met with some mixed, I don't want to say results, because I really enjoyed them, but it hasn't been for everyone. So I want to make sure that you have the tools to kind of approach it from that. But give it a try. Give it a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I would ask that favor. Wasa Wabweg asks, will there be beta testing available to get an outside point of view? Oh, absolutely. If you think I have the hubris to believe that I'm the only one that can do this, and that your support, your input and support and feedback is not critical to a game being the best it can be, then I'm offended, because I'm not that guy. I am not filled with the hubris, and I mean, I know I'm awesome and brilliant, but I can't see everything. So yes, there are things where I have to, where I just kind of have to have the ego to push through. That's pretty critical, but I'm not going to staunchly believe that external playtesters aren't necessary. This will absolutely see external playtesting, and the logistics of that have not yet been worked out. So hopefully, as we go forward, I'll have more details on that. If you're looking to playtest, well, you're here. That means you've seen the Kickstarter. If you're part of the special forums that you get into as part of Kickstarter, then you're going to have the opportunity to help me in a lot of different ways. And I mean that in a very nuts and bolts kind of a approach. This game isn't done. Unlike some Kickstarters where they've kind of had the product ready to go and they just needed the capital to get printing, I want you guys involved in the design. We're trying a grand experiment here. I think I mentioned that a little earlier in this one. We're trying something new. We think that more fan involvement will make this game even better, and we're trying to make that a reality. Now, there are logistical complications to it, but we think that this forum will really, really help us do that. So if you are looking to get involved, beta testing or idea shopping, or just kicking around ideas and helping me, like I might throw out the character creation rules and be like, I need everyone who can to make a character and tell me what you think and give me feedback on it. That's something that's really important to this game being as good as it can be. So don't think for a second that this game is done and ready to print. The Kickstarter, every day that the Kickstarter increases, I'm adding new features. I'm able to afford more writers. I'm able to afford more art. I'm able to afford all kinds of stuff. Later this week, we hope to really make an announcement on that, so you guys can see the much more the real breakdown on how all that works, because we want you to see all the cool things we want to do. So you will absolutely be involved, and hopefully you'll be able to see as we go forward how that involvement will increase. Leigh Lingston asks, what is the primary way that characters can be made unique during character creation? How can this be accomplished with a random character creation system? For example, what are the choice aspects of character creation? I'd have to pop open the document right now. I think there are 11, maybe 10 steps to character creation. They're each pretty straightforward. Only one of those steps does not require a decision. The last step is you reading your fate. So you'll already have all the cards played out, and now it's just a matter of reading that fate so that the Fate Master can interpret it. Actually, that step also involves a decision. It's just not the players, it's the Fate Masters. That's where you go, all right, Fate Master, here's all the ways you get to screw with me. Ha-ha. Up until then, you'll play a card and you'll get your station, and then there's a lot of decisions where you, as a human, have to decide what that station means. So while you may flip a card and get blacksmith, that does not necessarily mean you are a blacksmith. It could be you were born to blacksmiths. It could be that you were trained by an uncle who's a blacksmith. You spent a lot of time at the blacksmith in your town. Whatever it means is you have to make a decision about how blacksmith works into your background and how that's important to your character's station in life and his where he was born and stuff. So there's a decision there. The next step involves flipping more cards or another card and assigning the points that that card gives you. And that just continues the entire way. Like, there's never a time when you flip a card and just interpret and fill in. It's flip a card, make a decision. So no, there's a lot of ways in which characters will be different. I am not a fan of just flipping cards and finding out who your character is. You will be making decisions every step of the way to really make this character your own. And later in the Kickstarter, when I finally nail Eric's foot to a floor and make him make a character for you all, you'll see exactly what we mean. Sorry that hasn't been as quick as I would like it to come out, but it's certainly something we plan, and all these details will come out in the wash. We still have 30 days, guys. We still have 30 days. Bjorn Bonten, I know I mispronounced that one correctly, asks, hello again, Mac. Another question popping up. Is there a system or mechanic for a fated party? Characters choose what kind of group they will form and get bonuses or specials from there. My idea was dedicating the party/crew to a certain faction. Say the characters decide at character generation that they want to dedicate their party to the Rezzers. This would have the reputation infamy with Death Marshals, Rising, but also giving access to party basics, basically making the party as a whole a sort of character with advantages, drawbacks, and teamworks related to special skills. Is there something like that in the game already, or is that maybe an idea? That is the sort of idea that I think is perfect for our beta forums. That's the sort of thing that we as a group can flesh out the concept on. That's very similar to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition. That's an idea that got a lot of work in that book or that game line, and I have some familiarity with the game line, having worked at the company and worked next to those guys, and helped a little from time to time. But that's a really cool concept in that game line. To make it work for Malifaux, to make a mechanic like that work for Malifaux, I think it'd be more important to maybe make that the sort of thing that the party switches much more often, like. If they're all, maybe there's requirements for it, so the group has to earn it, or maybe there's just a fun party creation system, so that there's it's more fluid than just having set templates. There's a lot of things to talk about on that. I'm right now just riffing off ideas. So that's the sort of thing that's perfectly that was a cool, that can fit in our game. That's got a really cool mechanic to it. We don't obviously just want to lift it from another game. That's uncouth, but we could certainly look at that as inspiration for our own system, and maybe stand on the shoulders of giants, see where it caused them mechanical difficulties, see where it really brought a lot to the table. And that's the sort of thing that would be a fantastic thread on our beta forums, where maybe that's the sort of thing that becomes something that's in the game, or maybe it's something we all kind of just decide is better left as a homebrew system, and maybe we put it up on the web or something instead. But no, that's exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about, is really cool ideas where currently that's not built into the system. That's not on my list of plans. I got enough to do. But as we move forward, that might certainly be something that we see added to the game, because fans out there have ideas and good ones. And we're not afraid of your ideas. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. We're getting near the end here. We just got a few left to do, 3 left, and then I'll be taking the chat stream questions. That was Bjorn. So Prede365 asks another one. I played a bunch of Pathfinder, and I know you have said minis are optional, but are there going to be things like maps and monsters for those of us who do want to use minis? Well, we have the Terraclip system, so you certainly have a map system from us and our partners over at the Terraclips company, and you have our minis. Our minis certainly exist. Will we be? The question, though, I think goes deeper. Is will we be releasing miniatures specifically for the role-playing game and not for the skirmish game? And the answer to that would be no. Maybe we decide that there's a really cool monster in the role-playing game that we want to bring to the miniatures game. That could certainly happen. So there's, ideas are out there, and things could happen, but we won't be making miniatures specifically for the role-playing game. They will exist in the skirmish game when it comes to miniatures. If a miniature comes out, it'll have rules in the skirmish game. The exception being the frame for making your character. I've forgotten the name of it. That it's on the Kickstarter. That frame you get where the male or female character will be designed for you to customize a character for use in your game, or to use those pieces to customize a character for use in your skirmish game. So that one won't really have rules set aside just for it specifically. Though that's really a kit designed to make something cool and custom. Tomas Gray asks, can we get more information on the different types of Soulstones, e.g. colors, age, abilities, ways to refuel? In the book, absolutely. I can't really go into all the details here, but that's the exact sort of thing we're expanding on. What is the nature of a Soulstone? What does it do? What does it look like? What are all the cool things that can happen with it? What are the infinite number of ways a Soulstone can go wrong or get tainted or purified or refilled or depleted? And yeah, there'll be some mechanics that go along with that, but for the most part, a Soulstone is a story device, and so any mechanics that are there are designed to make a cooler story. So you'll certainly be able to, as players, harness the power of a Soulstone to manipulate fate or to get additional damage and all that kind of stuff, stuff you're used to seeing in the skirmish game. But when we expand on how they function, we're going to be looking at some really fun story-driven ways. One of the things that I've got bouncing around my head is a Soulstone that's been in an asylum for a long time, and it's been charging off of the souls in the asylum and all the energy there of insanity. So what does that make a Soulstone do? How is that different than a regular Soulstone? What color is it? How does it have to get refilled? Does that forever taint it, or is just the energy that filled it that one time matter? Once it's depleted, does it go back to just being a Soulstone, and you can fill it with energy in a different way, and all that kind of fun stuff? So I have all these questions. They haven't been decided yet, so we're going to see that fleshed out in the game a lot, and we're going to see some really cool stuff moving forward. So my unfortunate answer is I can't give you any info now because that just doesn't exist yet. We're writing it. That's what the Kickstarter's about. And Sean Overton Shada Apple asks, he has a 5-point question, so I'll go through as quickly as I can. How large of a group is comfortable for Through the Breach? I would imagine you could do it with as few as 2 players, but I like 3 myself. 2 as high as maybe 6 or 7. The highest game I've ever run was a 12-person game, and I don't want to say it didn't go well. I had fun, and so did many of my players, but there were certain challenges that presented itself. So think of it as a standard role-playing game. Anywhere between 2 players would be low, but 3 would work just fine, to as high as 6 or 7 without it breaking. And talented Fate Masters, guys who've been doing it for a long time, know the pitfalls of trying to run a big game like that. So it's the same as any other role-playing game. Are there any plans for character apps from Wyrd after the RPG is launched? We don't have any concrete plans right now. It's not saying they won't happen, but there's only so many of us here in the office, so we're not against it, and we'd love to see that sort of thing happen and in the right way. So it's about figuring out what the best way is to do that stuff. But we don't have anything concrete, nothing to announce. Sorry. Are there any plans to work with online RPG sites like Obsidian Portal and Roll20 to develop Malifaux setting materials, like icons for online map movement or interactive character sheets? We have no plans to announce yet. We certainly love those sites and those programs, and we're not against it. And so, there's just nothing that we could. If I were to tell you anything now, it would be hopeful. I would be like, yeah, I would really love to. I would really love to. And there's certainly going to be efforts put towards to see what can be done. But I don't know the future. I don't know how all that thing shakes out. So we'll see. Keep your eyes on the Kickstarter. Keep your eyes on the website, and when we have something to announce, we will tell you. We don't hold back. The only reason we haven't told you is because it hasn't happened. We're not holding any info back. We just don't have any. Will there be flaws and traits of some kind? Currently in the system, I don't have that designed in. That is absolutely the kind of thing that we could look at adding I don't know if it's really necessary at this stage. I think there's a lot of ways to make your character intrinsically different than other characters. It's not like two fighters in, say, Pathfinder. While they have a lot of ways to differentiate themselves, they still fill the same role. In our game, two gunfighters may fill completely different roles in your game. So one might just focus on intimidating and being, a scary guy, and the other one might, be a silent assassin who never wants to talk to anyone, and very different characters, and they mechanically would be very different with tons of different skills and abilities and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know if a traits and flaws kind of system is necessary yet, but I'm not against the idea. And if somebody comes up with a really good idea, we'll explore it. I can't promise it would go in, but I will certainly promise that you'll get my attention, and we'll talk about it, and we'll look at exploring the idea in the beta forums. That's the joy of it. I can't promise things will go in, but I can promise that I will look at it and give you that feedback. And at the very least, if I tell you, it doesn't fit in the game right now, I'll tell you why. And we'll hopefully be able to really have a very good working relationship on those beta forums. I want that with everyone who's there, and we're really going to have a good time, I think. We'll see if I get overwhelmed. I hopefully don't get overwhelmed, but I will do my best. I can promise you that. Last, when will playtesting be formed? My group's ready. I get that one a lot, guys. If you've got a group ready to playtest, I'll be looking for you when it's time. I'll be looking for groups, and we'll be doing a lot. So donate to the Kickstarter, get in on those forums, and don't know. It'll happen. All right, that is all the questions I have here from the Breachside chat. We still got about 15 minutes to fill. I was actually kind of nervous. I thought I might not have enough questions, but I am opening up the social stream now, which has a bit of a 10-second delay. So if you've got questions on the social stream, please feel free to ask them. I'm going to be peeking over at it now, and hopefully I don't have to filibuster too long here while I wait for questions to pop up, because that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? And no, I'm not explaining what that is. Maniacal laugh, maniacal laugh. Now I'm just sitting here quietly, Justin, while I wait for questions to pop up. It's kind of nerve-wracking. This is why I need a little Muppet to just pop up and do a little dance or something. Now Justin isn't even talking to me. That's just mean. Oh, hey, yeah, a question. I'm sorry, Zemo626 asks, Michael Foreman asked if there's an overlap between novice pursuits and how does one move to? Moving between pursuits should be fairly straightforward. My hope is that you stick to one pursuit for the entire game session, which means if you decide that you're being an overseer this game session, taking care of your fruit business, for instance, you might not have access to the special bonus when you are your gunfighter. Every pursuit has one special bonus that you only get when you're on the pursuit. So an overseer, for instance, might be able to have a special trigger that pops up whenever he's attempting to lead or bargain or do other social challenges. However, a gunfighter might have a bonus that lets him do all kinds of neat things during the initiative step of combat. So if you're busy being an overseer, you can get caught off guard because you won't have your initiative bonus. That being said, that's the only thing that you're having to really switch between. Otherwise, you're moving down the track on your pursuit. So you'll have access to all the things you've moved down the track on back over on Gunfighter. It's not like you suddenly lose all of your abilities. It's that your character really woke up this morning and is like, all right, this is what I've got to do today, and he kind of put himself in that mindset. So you'll be able to switch, in my estimation, every game session if you really felt like it, if you really want to play a character who's very split between two worlds, or you could stay with one the entire campaign and be fine. Well, no, after about 10 game sessions, you probably are going to move on to an advanced pursuit, which I'm hoping to get into the core book if funding gets high enough. It's just one of those things that takes a lot of pages, so I need more pages. But then you'll transfer into advanced pursuits that'll let you kind of stay a gunfighter, but focus a little more on different aspects of that. So, yes, sorry, that was a long answer to a simple question. I expect players to be able to switch between game sessions, and they could do that as often as they want. That is something that the player has control over. unless it's an advanced pursuit, which is the next question. Advanced pursuits? Question mark. Yes, advanced pursuits are things like death marshal, right? You can't just start as a death marshal. You have to earn it. You can start as a gunfighter. You can start as a guy who really, really hates the undead, but becoming a death marshal takes time and effort. I'm going to scroll down here on chat and see if I can just move up. Bjorn Bonten asks, what kind of items are you thinking about? Generic, light, medium, heavy guns, for instance, or more defined? Much more defined. For instance, my favorite items so far are the pneumatic claymore and the Gatling Derringer. So no. Expect us to really define them in the game world. I won't be simply saying this is a light pistol. There will be 5 or 6 light pistols. They'll all be described. You'll know who made them, what's cool about them, that sort of thing. I'm hoping, and that's just one of the things that I want to do with the Kickstarter, is to really go nuts. I've got a guy named Jason Marker working on it right now, and we want to make it look like a full catalog, right? Like a Sears and Roebuck catalog, where the gear section is really being pitched to you as a potential buyer, like, hey, this is why our gun's better than everyone else's. And so it'll hopefully be very thematic and give you a good insight into the Malifaux game world. Every step of this book needs to give you bigger and more information on the game world. Let me see here. Next question. You guys are asking questions too fast. I see a large number of novice pursuits. Are there overlap between these? There's going to be some overlap, yeah. A mercenary and a gunfighter might have similar skills, but they'll get them at different times and use them in many different ways. It's one of those things where, yeah, there's overlap conceptually, but not too much mechanically. How does one progress from novice pursuits to more advanced pursuits? Storyline. Those become available, and once the Fate Master tells you they're available to you because of what you've done of your actions in game, then you simply have them available to switch into. And you can switch back into them and out of them all you want. A guy who's working for the Death Marshals and is in the process of becoming a Death Marshal might switch between fighter, overseer, and Death Marshal, as is important to his character. Heck, he might even switch back to Drudge every once in a while. Who knows? Or he's an academic, but he's also a Death Marshal. So it's designed for you to really be able to flesh out your character as you go, very, very fluidly and very organically. Would you run a game as Fate Master on Roll20 or something similar, maybe as a beta test? That's a good idea. I will take that under advisement. I might do that. What kind of items are you thinking? Generic? Okay, we got that one. Can you tell me more about character creation, or has that been talked about? That was asked by Tynery, who, by the way, I'm pronouncing your name wrong on purpose since you just joined in. We're going to be getting into details on that as soon as I can. I got to nail Eric down on that one because I think it'd be a lot of fun for you guys to watch him make a character. But he's a busy guy, and I'm a busy guy. I got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do. So we're hoping to do that very soon, but reality is going to get in the way on that. It is the Christmas season. He's got a kid. I got family. I got books to write. I got books to design. So we're hoping to do that very quickly before the end of the Kickstarter, but I can't promise a date right now. As soon as I can make it happen. I hope you understand that means I'm really trying. How prevalent will crafting the items be? And someone, I think I missed a question somewhere where someone was asking about crafting. Crafting is one of those systems that I don't really have locked down yet. To do crafting properly, you need to know a lot about how the game plays and how the game works and functions. So while we have extended challenges, which could easily be used to do crafting stuff, I might simply introduce a system where if you've got the plans for it and you know what you're doing, you can just make stuff. I mean, I don't really think a blacksmith is going to have a big chance of failing when he makes a sword. And if he takes his time, yeah, there's an issue when he rushes, when he's got to shoe a horse in an hour, or I don't know if that's a lot of time for shoeing a horse. Maybe that's normal. If he's got to shoe a horse while he's fleeing guys who are shooting at him, then yeah, maybe there's a challenge involved there. But for the most part, it's always been my belief that characters can just craft stuff. So that's one of those systems that I haven't really designed yet. I'm waiting to see more about how the game plays. And I frankly feel that crafting is as important to the game as you as a player want it to be. If you want to make all of your stuff, then that should be an option. I don't know if that'll give you an advantage over other players, but it'll certainly give your character flavor and a unique set of items. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it should be important, but only as important as you want it to be. When you're on a pursuit, do you get abilities the more you play them? And could you give an example of an ability? All right, let's get into the pursuits thing a little bit here. That'll be my big crunch for the Ustream. Pursuits basically have, at this time, this is all subject to change as testing happens, at this time have 10 steps. You move down those 10 steps every game session. Every game session you're on the pursuit, you move down the steps. Each step gives you a new ability. Maybe that's Quick Draw, which is a trigger that allows you to draw a weapon as part of any other challenge, which could even be initiative. So as part of the initiative roll, if you get your trigger, boom, you draw your weapon. And then later on, you might get a ability that lets you add a suit to any initiative roll, which would be really convenient since now you can add that to your initiative roll and now always know that as part of an initiative roll, you're going to trigger rammed, which is what's needed for your Quick Draw. So as it goes down the list, these things will become available. Every gunfighter will have the same list. There won't be any choices on that. Instead, your choice is to switch to another pursuit. The further down the line you go, if you ever come back, you'll just pick up where you left off, and boom, that game session you'll earn the next one down. While there'll be cool tricks, they won't be very, very powerful, and some of them maybe will have decisions. I shouldn't say that. If there's a talent that allows you to make decisions in it, like, oh, my character knows several gun tricks. Well, I might just have one gun trick talent, and so bouncing it off walls or something is a trick, and then knocking something out of someone's hand is a different trick, that sort of thing. So there might be decisions on it, but it's not designed to be a decision point for the character. The decision point was choosing which path to go down, not the direction that path takes. However, there is, and I talked about a little bit earlier, a talent that you get only while you're on the pursuit, and you can't keep it when you leave the pursuit. So a gunfighter, to continue the gun, let's take a different example. Let's take Dabbler. All right, so you're a Dabbler. Now the suit you get is whenever you get a trigger to any skill based on intellect, and anytime you get a book, you get to draw a control card from your twist deck. It's pretty powerful. It's a really great one, but you only get it when you're on the Dabbler path. However, when you take up, say, the Elementalist Advanced Pursuit, that trigger might be very similar but more powerful. For instance, it might become you may discard a card from your control hand and draw 2, or draw 1. So that trigger might just get more powerful. So it's a clear, this is the next step on that line. So you might never need to go back to Dabbler once you get to an Advanced Pursuit. Or the Advanced Pursuit could be just something really weird that is totally different. We have a lot of design space there, and we can do a lot of different things. I hope that answers the question. Zamao asks, can we change pursuits mid-session? I will leave that up to the Fate Master. It's not designed for you to change mid-session. I don't want people switching pursuits to gain the advantage of the special bonus. I don't want you to be like, oh, a fight's starting, I'm switching to Gunfighter. I think that would diminish the cool ability that is what kind of your character is focused on. So no, that's not my design. But in a long game session, if you're playing for like 6 or 7 hours, the Fate Master might be like, all right, we're gonna take a little break. When we come back, you guys can change your pursuits if you want. Like maybe that's a reward he gives you. I would rather give that to the Fate Master as something he can use as a reward than build in mechanically. All right, guys, we're coming in on our hour now. So any questions after this last one that Michael Foreman just asked, I'm not going to be able to answer. I'm going to try and rush through these pretty quickly. Also critical, if I didn't answer it, if I missed it in the live stream, I apologize. Wasn't my intent to ignore anyone. Please post those questions on the Kickstarter comments section, or save them for next time. I will hopefully get to them. Michael Foreman asks, how will triggers work? It's pretty straightforward. If the player succeeds, he gets to pick a trigger. If he fails, the Fate Master gets to use the suits that are in the pool to start a trigger. However, he doesn't get any of the suits that the player added in because of his skills. So if you're really good with a gun and you have a ram, and you added ram to your total, but you still failed, Fate Master can't use your ram to trigger someone else's, to trigger the enemy's ability. If there be a World 220 base test, I want in. Noted. Bjorn Bonton asks, can you give us some more hints on how the Fate Master can modify the Fate deck? He doesn't really modify it so much as he can choose when to reshuffle it. It's a story moment. He goes, okay, all the bad cards are out. I'm gonna have I want this next fight to be pretty difficult. And with all the bad, with I see the Black Joker's been played. I see another couple cards are already out of the Fate deck. You've got all the aces out. I want this to be a challenge, so I'm gonna have a shuffle the Fate deck. He will then pick up the Fate deck, shuffling it, and the process of touching the Fate deck means that the players all get to draw a new control card. So if he's going to make it challenging, they get something to kind of fight against. It's a mechanical quirk and some fun stuff. So he doesn't really modify the Fate deck so much as he has some control over it. If the advanced track is linear, it'll be rather long or it'll get stale over long campaigns. While the track is linear, it's not to assume that players will stay on one track the entire time. So if you want to play a gunfighter for 5 years, you'll probably be moving into other gunfighter advanced pursuits or gunfighter geared advanced pursuits, or be picking up stuff to round out your character. Mercenary, criminal, overseer, drudge. There's a lot of different options there. So no, it actually doesn't need to be that long. Right now it's sitting at 10, which I think is pretty comfortable, and you'll get other ones later on. And there are ways to basically, when you move down your tracks, when you move steps down your track, you can also spend that point, instead of taking another step down a track, to do things like start a new skill. If you don't have a skill at all, you can't choose it to be improved. Instead, you would spend that step to go up track. I call them pursuit points. So you get one pursuit point every game session, and you can either use it to move down your pursuit, or you can spend it in a couple different ways. So there are a lot of ways to advance a character beyond just the pursuit. Do not think of them like classes. They are not classes. That's just not how they function. You don't need 30 levels of fighter. That's not what a gunfighter is. Let's see. And last question. How granular are you expecting the skills to be? Very. While some of the skills cover a lot, like homesteading really covers everything you need to maintain and even build a house out on the prairie, we've broken down combat down to pistols and long arms and shotguns and all kinds of stuff. So they should be fairly granular. Don't expect them to be, I'm not going to break blacksmithing into 6 or 7 of them, but there'll be as many skills as I need, and you're always free to make up your own as they make sense in your game set, in your game. So if you feel they need to be more granular, you can add in new skills that really fit that bill. But right now there are something like 5 or 6 magic skills just alone. So magic is going to be, for instance, pretty granular. It depends on how granular I think it needs to be, and it's flexible. And there might be more added as we go along. It's just going to get more cool stuff every game, or every time the Kickstarter, every new pledge means I can just add something cool. All right, guys. That's it for this Breachside chat. Hopefully I got to as many questions as I could. It was not my intent to leave anyone out, but we got to keep these things to an hour. Hopefully, if I missed your question, please post it on the comment section of the Kickstarter, and I will get to it in my next one. And then if you miss that, be right here in the social stream. So we should have a lot of fun, and I'll be doing another one soon. Look to the Kickstarter updates to find out when that is. We mix up the dates and times so that people with varying schedules can get in on this. Today's was to make sure that people in Europe could ask me some questions face to face. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you guys had a good time. And I guess that's it. Bye.